Will, going back to talking about Bregman and his relationship with Alex Cora, when we talked to Cora at spring training, he made the point to say with the cheating allegations and everything around that, the player that emerged in Alex Bregman is a different guy than before. Is that what the leadership comes down to, that he's learned so much in his career that he's able to bring guys along with him and lead them down the right path?
Yeah, and it's just part of, there's a human aspect to this as well, right? Like, he's 30 years old. He's not a kid anymore. He's been around the game for a long time. And I just think there's a maturity that comes just as a man and as a human being that obviously bleeds into your baseball career and how you are as a teammate. But, yeah, he's been through it, right? He's also won every year, which is great. So there's that on top of it. But I think when you go through something like that, you really appreciate the people around you. You learn how to build relationships a lot better, because there for a few years, the people in his clubhouse were the only people he had on his side. You think about every stadium he went to, he was getting booed nonstop. And I get it, right? Everybody around baseball understands it. So I think that could have helped him, yes, maturity-wise, but also just building relationships. And we've seen that from day one with everyone in the clubhouse with Bregman.
Well, when you see some of these acquisitions that the Red Sox made this offseason, I know Greg's expectation is win the divisions. Curtis has them at being in the World Series or maybe even winning the World Series. What's the expectations for you when you look at this team based on what they were able to do this offseason?
Well, I'll start with saying I couldn't imagine a world at the end of last year where you don't have Bayo, Giolito, or Crawford, and no one's really even talking about it, right? Like, we're going into the season, and there's three guys that could be big contributors in this rotation not on the roster, and no one's talking about it at all because of this depth they've built. And I think if there's a common denominator with all winning teams, it's pitching depth, starting pitching depth, because you don't roast your bullpen by July and then you're just running on fumes and limping to the finish line. So to answer your question, with the added depth, not only in starting pitching, but in the middle relief and in the bullpen, I think the AL is wide open. I think it's a realistic expectation to want this team and think this team can win the division, especially with the Yankees. Yeah, they added Fried, but they lost Soto. They also lost Garrett Cole. Louis Hill's going to be out for a while. I don't know if Baltimore's young. They're exciting. There's a lot of high ceiling players, but they haven't really tapped into it yet. They also lost Corbin Burns. And then it's a really tough division, but I think the Boston Red Sox have a really good team to win in the low 90s.
Will Middlebrooks is our guest on the call today, and a bunch this season on the Shaw's and Star Market Red Sox Radio Network. Did Tristan Casas have to sign off on you being in the booth?
Not that I'm aware of, but we'll see. With that guy, you never know. You just never know.
Did you play with anybody who was like that?
No.
Mentally, I don't know how to describe it. That
aloof
personality,
that type of character.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's so fun though, because for one, he's like a closet baseball. I don't want to say closet genius, but like when you ask him a post game question, and he starts rattling off every thought he had over the last 3 hours. It's really interesting, but at the same time, you're like, I don't know if I ever want to be inside this guy's head ever.
Well, when you look at some of these prospects, and I know the season hasn't even started, but I think it's, one of the questions that maybe you could ask going through the season. Is there a chance that maybe the Blue Jays with Toronto, that there's an opportunity for you come trade deadline team to make your team even that much better, that the Sox use some of these prospects and potentially go after a guy like Vlad Guerrero?
That's what prospect capital, it gives you the opportunity to do. I think so. Vlad's also going to come. That's. Do you want to give up? Now, I think they're getting more and more attached to these prospects after the spring training that we saw from these guys, especially from Roman and Marcelo. So it's going to be tougher because you also have to bring in Vladdy, and it's going to cost you $600 million. So there's that attached to it as well. But you also have guys out there like Sandy Alcantara from Miami that everybody's had their eye on, who's coming back from surgery, and he could have Cy Young type stuff. So there's multiple guys. So to your question, yes, you have this prospect capital. Are you going to hit on all the prospects? Probably not. It's really hard to do that, but I think we have 3 here that are legit big league impact players, and you start looking at our roster, it's starting to get a little full in certain areas, especially the outfield. Infield now, too, with Christian Campbell making the team. So there's a lot of hard decisions that are going to be made over the next year, I guess we could say. I have no idea which way this team wants to go with that, because I really like these prospects and I don't want them to go anywhere.
Will, just a random question for me. Did you ever in your wildest imagination think when you won the World Series in 2013 that you were playing with a lobsterman as your manager?
No, I did not, man. I did not. And that was such a fun year, because I remember, like, within the first 2 weeks of the season, Johnny Gomes, and in the old clubhouse, the manager's office used to be in our clubhouse. It wasn't down the hall like Alex Cora's is now. It was literally like his door was open. We could see in there from our locker. And I remember Johnny Gomes calling John Farrell in, and he walks in there, and Johnny Gomes goes, "Hey, man, stay out of the way. We got this." And from that point, like, Farrell just he never really came in the clubhouse. It was run by the veterans. John Farrell made the pitching changes and the lineup cards, and he let the veterans run. But that's the best teams. The best teams always have clubhouses full of guys who take the manager out of the equation. Now, this is different with Alex Cora, just because he almost feels like he's still a player, the way he interacts with these guys, that's what kind of makes him fun to play for. But old school managers like the John Farrells and guys like that, we got him to just stay out of the way, and maybe that pushed him to be a fisherman. Who knows?
Also, arguably, no one in the history of this city has celebrated a title more professionally than Mike Napoli. I mean, that was like a full week and a half long bender from Mike Napoli.
Week and a half? That was like a month.
But my favorite moment,
and he had a shirt on for maybe 25 minutes total.
My favorite moment of that whole run was when you guys won it, and Rosenthal ratted out Gomes by saying he was just asked to ask him why he won this team, and he said, "It's not about your war, it's who you go to war with." And I was like, "Oh my
Such
God.
a good line. Johnny Gomes is full. It doesn't matter where he is in his day or his life. He can always give you a one-liner, always, and it's one you're always going to remember. He's that good.
All right, well, it's exciting. It's opening day for Scheim and the rest of the wagerers. Where are you on the 86.5 wins? Over or under that?
I'm over that, and that's not just because I like the team. I'm around the team. I legit think this team can win 90-plus games.
All right. Will, we will be listening this afternoon,
Very
4:05 and all season long. And thanks for getting up early and doing this morning. We'll talk to you again this season, I am sure.